Are you a mid-game player looking for the best way to get into raiding in Old School RuneScape? Then this is the video for you. Like all my guides, I'm going to waste as little of your time as possible. Let's get you flying through Entry Mode Tombs of Amascut and working your way up to those 150s and beyond for a chance at some fat purples. This video will get you sending this raid today without any unnecessary faffing around with sweaty techniques. You don't need crazy gear and you don't need to be worried about learning all the advanced stuff that you see high level PVMers using to start tackling this raid. I am confident this guide will get you through, even if Tombs of Amascut is your first ever raid. We'll keep it simple and not overload you with crap that you don't need. With the recent changes, ToA is way easier than it used to be, so there's never been a better time than now to dive into this awesome content. You can tackle ToA with a pretty budget setup. We'll be demonstrating that today. If you want to be super optimal with the DPS, you can bring your best full range magic and melee switches, but if you're a learner, I think you'd be better off minimizing your switches and bringing extra supplies. Here's my recommended minimum setup for a learner. Like I said, we're minimizing switches. So mixed hide, top, bottoms and boots is going to cover ranged and melee, and a bloodbark top and bottoms covers your magic set. The only other swaps we'll swap out are weapons, shields and cloaks. We'll bring a dragon crossbow with diamond enchanted bolts and a book of lore for ranged, a trident of the seas and a book of darkness for magic, and for melee, an arcan blade and a dragon defender. If you don't have the arcan blade, I strongly recommend you get it. The spec is absolutely cracked, but if not, a dragon sword will do just fine. We won't worry about switches for any of our other slots. Barrow's gloves, an amulet of glory and a helm of Neatisno will do the job just fine. Pretty much any ring will be fine. You can go for the Fremnik rings. I've bought a Ring of Shadows. A light bearer goes absolutely crazy in this raid, but it is pretty expensive nowadays. If you've got any sensible upgrades, feel free to make them. You'll also want to bring some extra weapons. Bring a DDS, this one is non-negotiable. You'll understand why by the end. A Keris Partisan is also super useful on one of the bosses. Bring one range pot, one super combat potion, and the best venom removal potion you have the cash for. Samfuse Serum's the best because it's also a prayer potion. Fill the rest of your inventory with brews and restores and we're kitted up and ready. Don't worry if you go through a lot of the supplies on the first couple of bosses. If you die, you'll receive Honeyed Locust, a stackable healing and restoration resource, and after the second boss, you'll get a cheeky supply drop from the Helpful Spirit. Before we head in, one quick tip. One of the bosses requires a pickaxe, so drop your best one to the left of the entrance. If you don't do this, you'll have to use a bronze one, massively slowing you down. We'll also quickly go over the invocation system. If you're new to the raid, I'd advise to leave them all turned off. These basically add modifiers either to the whole raid or to individual bosses. The more invocations you have on, the more mechanics you'll have to deal with, and they also buff the boss's stats depending on how high this cranks up the raid level. We'll be talking about the best invocations later in the video once you've smashed out entry mode. One tiny last thing before we dive in, I'm using the Tombs of Amascut plugin. This doesn't help too much for the actual boss encounters, but it makes all of the puzzle rooms super easy. I strongly recommend it, but this guide should get you through without it for any of those mobile users or if you're just in the anti-plugin gang. Let's start with Akkha. You can start his puzzle room in the door with a helmet on it. This is the light beam puzzle. Line up the mirrors to bounce the beam onto the shielded statue. That drops the seal so you can mine it. Remember that pickaxe we stored earlier? Time to use it. If you don't store one outside, you're stuck with bronze. Dragon, crystal and third age all work the same. Rune will do the job too if money's tight. Your mining level matters. 85 mining with a dragon pick guarantees a 1 cycle. If you've got a dragon pickaxe, you can use that spec to boost to 85. Smashing indeed. There are 3 mirrors you can move to redirect the light. You'll also need to mine the cracked walls to clear the path. Avoid the black orbs that are floating around. These spawn from the edges and hit pretty hard. The light beam also damages you. Do not stand in either. That's pretty much all there is to it. Get that seal mined and move on to the first boss fight. Akkha is a boss that used to require all 3 combat styles, but since the changes recently only requires 2. This has made it way easier, so lucky you. The whole fight is basically making sure you're praying correctly and using the correct combat style. Akkha will protect against the combat style that he's using, so if he's got protection from melee up, you also need protection from melee up. Obviously, attack with one of the styles he isn't praying against. In this case, mage or range. Like all of the bosses that we talk about today, he'll have some special attacks that you need to deal with at regular intervals. The iconic Akkha spec is the Memory Blast. It's basically a game of Simon Says. Akkha will teleport away and light up the logos in the center of the arena. You need to remember the order and move between the quadrants appropriately to avoid the attack. If you don't, you take damage and suffer some effects. Fire does up burn damage over time, shadow drains stats, lightning disables prayers, and ice slows your attack speed. For his trailing orb special attack, your character will turn black, and if you move around, you'll leave a trail of black orbs behind you. These orbs explode if you stand on top of them and deal big damage to you and others around you. The best thing to do here is stand completely still and prevent orbs from ever even spawning. Any explosion here also deals the same effect depending on the quadrant you're in as the memory phase. If you're in a group, the detonate special attack will turn you white and you'll eventually explode, dealing AoE to other players around you. After removing a bit of Akkha's health, you'll notice he becomes invulnerable. You need to destroy one of the clones around the edge of the arena, and once that's downed, you can attack Akkha again, but only in this quadrant. Once you kill all 4 clones and get him down to 0, you'll have to deal with the previously lethal, but recently nerfed, come phase. Basically, avoid the white orbs and damage the boss. The best way to do this is to take it slow and just walk around. He'll teleport between quadrants after a few attacks, the amount of attacks depending on the size of the group. Don't use multi-hit weapons here, or he'll be teleporting around a lot more and you'll have to avoid a lot more orbs. Protection from magic reduces the orb damage if you really do suck at avoiding them. Once he's down, you're ready for the next boss. You can get to Kephri through the room with a scarab on the door. If there's one room that I really do love the plugin for, it's this one. There are a bunch of puzzles, you need to make it to the other side of the room. You'll be chased by some bugs dealing damage to you along the way, so get the puzzles done as quickly as possible. The end puzzle is always the same, but the 4 puzzles at the start can appear in any order, so in no particular order. The memory grid puzzle is a memory game. Place the button to light up a pattern of tiles, then you've got to step on them in the same order. Mess up the order, you take damage. Forget the pattern, press the button again for a new one. Just focus and don't rush it. The obelisk puzzle has 5 unlit obelisks. They've all got to be hit in the correct order, but is a complete guessing game. Hit the wrong one, rocks will fall and damage you. This one is just process of elimination. Keep trying and remember the order. If you hit the wrong one, just run out straight away. In the pressure plate puzzle, you need to light up all the floor tiles by stepping on them, but every time you step on one, it turns off the ones next to it. If you're stuck, you can right click and force a plate on, but you'll take 20 damage. For the maths puzzle, read the tablet. It will give you a number between 20 and 45. Now you've got to step on symbols that add up to that number. The symbols are the numbers. You can find out what they mean on the walls at the start of the room. If you go over that number, you take damage. Having somewhere to take notes down can really help with this one. The final puzzle is always the same. This one's a matching pairs memory game. You've got 2 boards and need to find the identical symbols on each. In solo, 4 pairs are already done for you and you can move between the boards at your own pleasure. In groups, none are done and the players are split, so you need to go one at a time, memorize and call out icons and locations. With that out of the way, you're ready for the Kephri boss fight. Kephri used to be the easiest boss by a long way, but since the changes, she's pretty tough when you start upping the invocation level. You'll want to equip your Keris Partisan for this fight. She starts off shielded, and you'll need to repeatedly damage her down. Between every phase, there'll be an intermission where you have to deal with extra scarabs. For the entire fight, you'll have to deal with a falling fireball mechanic. This is a lot like Vorkarth if you've done that boss. You'll see a shadow under you, just move 1 tile to your left or right and continue damaging the boss. She'll also attempt to carpet bomb you with dung. When she does this, you'll get knocked back, just run out of the way. A great tip is to stand on one of the corners. If you keep standing on the same corner, the dung piles double up instead of blocking more space. This means that as Kephri's dung blocks off sections of the arena, the least possible amount will become inaccessible. For her other specials, the eggs on the ground explode and release mini ranging scarabs. Just don't stand next to these, as when they explode, they'll damage you. If the mini ranging scarabs spawn, you'll want to keep up protection from range for as much of the rest of the fight as possible. Once her shield breaks, she'll become invulnerable while she recharges. You'll need to deal with extra scarabs. In phase 1, it's a simple spitting scarab, keep up prey ranged and smack him down. Whilst you're taking him out, Kephri spawns will be healing her and you'll be targeted by bomber scarabs. These work exactly the same way as the fireball attack, just run out of the way. If you're feeling spicy, you can try and take out the healer scarab swarms, but to be honest, I just ignore them for now. It's not going to be a big time save or make anything much easier, just focus on surviving. After some time, Kephri will become vulnerable again, and we repeat everything from the start of the fight. DPS her down and break the shield. For the second intermission, you'll be faced with an Arcane and a Soldier Scarab. If you allow the Arcane Scarab to charge up, you will take huge magic damage. You might want to put on Protect from melee whilst you're doing this, as the Soldier Scarab can hit hard. Kill the Arcane Scarab, then the Soldier, then focus on surviving, all whilst avoiding the Bomber Scarab. When you get good, you can trap the Soldier Scarab in the dung, so you never even have to deal with it. After they're all dead and Kephri recharges, you'll notice she's got a green health bar now. Down her one more time and we're all done here. Now we've got 2 bosses down, we can restore our supplies at the Helpful Spirit and deposit anything we don't need in the urn next to him. As a learner, I'd advise you hold on to everything you've got. The Helpful Spirit will give you a bunch of useful stuff. Just remember, if you don't get what you need right now, you'll get another load of goodies from him before you fight the Wardens at the end of the raid. When you're claiming from the Helpful Spirit as a learner, all you want to do is make sure you've got enough healing and prayer restoration supplies. These are primarily the yellow and red potions that look suspiciously like Brews and Super Restores. They function in exactly the same way. Smelling salts are a super combination of combat, ranged and magic potions, like drinking a divine potion for all 3 styles at once, or an overload in Chambers of Zebak. Ambrosia is a mega heal. It's basically your panic button, get out of jail free card, and it is really useful for learners if you can get one. Liquid Adrenaline reduces the energy used for your special attack by half, also handy to have if you can get one. The Scarab and Bandages are prayer and heal over time items. This can be nice, but they are probably the worst pick of the bunch. Before we move on to the next 2 bosses, how about you drop the video a cheeky little like if you found this useful so far, and maybe even a sub whilst you're down there. We're so close to 10k subscribers, an absolutely massive milestone for me. Thanks. With 2 bosses down and a fresh batch of supplies, let's tackle Zebak. His puzzle room is a tough one to get to grips with, but easy once you know how to do it. You need to pick up the water jug in the middle of the room, run through the poison and spikes without getting hit, collect water and water the plant in the middle of the room. Crocodiles will also spawn. Kill them with magic to avoid them draining the health of the plant you're watering. If you get hit on the way back, you'll lose water from your jug. If you do this perfectly, the plant will reach capacity in 2 trips. When you're running through the poison and the spikes, I'd advise against taking it slowly. The spikes come out in a repeating pattern, so wait for a time when you can just run across in 1 click. Once you've fully watered the plant, you're ready for Zebak himself. You'll want your range gear on. The bulk of the fight is essentially prayer switching. When the red orb flies towards you, you'll want protection from magic on. When the grey rock flies towards you, you'll want protection from range on. Stay out of melee range at all times. You need to keep the prayer up until the hit splat actually hits your character, so make sure you don't flick off too early. There are a few other mechanics you'll need to deal with. The RuneScape classic, avoid the shit on the floor. Basically, don't stand in any of the venom on the floor. This is particularly relevant during the special attack phases that we'll go through now. These can appear in any order, but we'll go through the most lethal one first, the Roar. Zebak will launch a bunch of jugs and rocks around the arena. You have to push the jugs into the rocks to clear the venom around the rock as quickly as you can, then stand behind the rock. If you can't quite get the jug to hit the rock, you can hit the jug whilst it's moving, which will make the jug explode and clear the venom around it. If you don't do this quickly enough, Zebak will roar and shake the arena. If you aren't stood pretty much immediately behind a rock, this is basically instant death. The other special attack is the wave attack. This mechanic is used in a few other bosses, particularly during quests, and it's pretty intuitive. Waves will come from either side of the arena. Run in between the gaps in the waves to avoid the damage. If you don't, you'll eventually end up getting pushed outside of the arena and have to swim back to the island. This usually ends in death. Keep this up until his health gets low. When it gets low, his attack speed will increase. Make sure to pay attention to the timing, but if you can get past the roar and the waves, this should be pretty chill. Finish up here and you're ready for Barber. The final boss of the 4, his puzzle room is the worst room in the entire raid, but it's gotten way nicer since the recent changes. Before you enter, pick up the hammer and the potions from the crates. If you're on solos, the pillars and the vents on the floor will light up with a red skull. You'll need to immediately repair the pillars with a hammer or douse the water on the vents. If you're in a group, the only difference is it might be yourself or another raider gets granted the site to see what to do. They then need to communicate this to everyone else and you all need to do it. There's also the corruption mechanic that makes all of the players appear dark red. For this one, you all need to stack up. You should designate a DD tile before you enter the room. With all this going on, you have to kill a bunch of monkeys that spawn. 3 of these, the Major, Ranger and Meleeer, follow the standard combat trial stuff. But there's also cursed baboons that leave a trail of venom, shaman baboons who spawn minions, and volatile baboons that will explode when they get close. You can use the volatile baboons to your advantage to kill other baboons and range down the shamans and cursed baboons. Keep at this for a little while and you'll be ready for Barbar himself. You'll want protection from melee up for the entire Barbar fight. During the bulk of the fight, you'll simply have to DPS the boss down. When you see a shadow underneath you, run away to avoid the attack. This will either be the AoE slam or the falling rock. After every falling rock attack, you'll need to stand next to the rock that gets left behind. Standing next to the rock will absorb a lot of damage from the rock throw attack that Barbar always does pretty much immediately after the falling rock. If you don't have any rocks to stand next to, you can stand next to one of the unopened sarcophagi at the edge of the room, but I would advise against it. If these get broken open, you'll start taking unnecessary damage. Speaking of those sarcophagi, baboons will also spawn and try and open them. They die pretty quickly, so give the baboons a whack and get straight back on the boss. At 66% and 33% health, you'll have to deal with the boulder phase. Put on your ranged gear. Your max hit needs to be above 25 to kill them in one hit, so use your best range prayer if you're not quite there in your current setup with your current range level. You can only destroy the one with the cracks, so shoot this and run through. If you're not feeling confident, you can stay right at the back and take your time, or if you're really feeling it, you can shoot them, run through, and hit Barbar with melee to end this phase early. After you get the second lot of boulders done, you just need to keep damaging the boss and avoiding those shockwaves and falling rocks to finish the fight. With all 4 bosses dead, grab another batch of supplies from the helpful spirit and go through the big portal to enter the Wardens fight. Remember, you want as many healing supplies as you can get. If you have a few brews and restores, prioritize getting an ambrosia, smelling salts and then liquid adrenaline. People who are already good at ToA will always direct you towards smelling salts, but I think when you're learning, the panic button ambrosia is way more useful for getting those first few kill counts. Wardens is broken up into 3 phases, each one more intense than the last. Before we go through the mechanics, keep a cool head, keep an eye on that prayer and HP, and don't worry about always blasting your max DPS. Focus on the mechanics and keeping yourself alive. It doesn't matter if you get the kill this time, it matters that you learn the fight. You can access the Wardens area through the big center door. Speak to the spirit in the middle of the room when you're ready to go. I honestly don't understand phase 1 in too much depth, but that's fine because you don't need to either. Basically, stand on the left side of the obelisk as you enter the room to block off some of the mechanics from charging up. The orbs that you see coming from the obelisk will charge up the warden. This will cause a lot of damage to you, so heal up if you have to. If you did pick the bandages, this is a great time to use them. Keep damaging the obelisk and get it to 0. Feel free to use a spec or 2 and some liquid adrenaline, but don't drain your whole spec bar. You'll see why in phase 2. Blocking the left side means you'll have an easier fight with the warden in the final phase. If you're in a group, make sure to only block one side. This desyncs the attacks. The reason you want to desync these attacks is because of the UFOs. These cause a massive area of effect attack over half the arena at a time in an alternating grid pattern, and if you stand under them you take huge damage, so don't. If both of these attacks go off at the same time, you're screwed. The Wardens will also both shoot orbs at you. The large ball of energy will mean you have to stack up to split the damage. The small ball means you have to spread apart. In solos, you can't stack or spread, so you just have to eat the damage, but don't worry, it is reduced, so it's no big deal. Keep damaging the obelisk, keep yourself alive, and as soon as the bar hits 0, you'll want to put your mage gear on and heal up to full. I think the second phase is probably the toughest part of the fight. There's a lot to remember, so strap in. You'll need to repeatedly reduce the boss's yellow health bar to 0 to expose the core, which has a normal green health bar. To damage the warden, you'll need to either use magic or ranged, depending on the prayer he's got active. If you're blocked off the correct side, you'll be attacking with magic for the first round and alternating after every time you down the boss. You'll also need to switch your own prayers. The Warden has a lot of projectile attacks that you'll need to be aware of. The normal skull is range, the red skull is mage, the red scimitar is melee, the white arrow is range, and the blue spell is magic. The last projectile isn't prayer related, but for the black bolt, you'll need to basically run out of the way. If this one hits you, you'll get frozen in place. Just spam click and you'll be released from the freeze. You'll also have to deal with, yep, you guessed it, avoiding the shit on the floor. As always, avoid it. The red tiles are spicy, so stay away from these. I've got 2 tiles marked on my screen right now. If you simply run between these when the tiles are next to you, you can avoid all damage from the red tiles. Otherwise, running around like a headless chicken works too. It's just not particularly optimal or repeatable. You'll also have to avoid the exploding lightning skull. You need to be more than 7 tiles away from this when it lands to avoid damage. Alternatively, if you're standing in the range of the skull, but within 2 tiles directly north, south, east or west of the initial explosion point, which you can identify by the shadow on the ground, you'll also avoid damage. Once you down the Warden, you'll need to damage the core. Put on all of your best melee gear, best melee prayer, and if you've got liquid adrenaline, use it. This is why we bought that DDS. Spec it down with a DDS as much as you can, and continue to stab it with it after you run out of spec. You might need to do this 2 or 3 times, so the light bearer really does make this fight much faster if you can afford it. You definitely won't kill the Warden on the first down, so simply repeat this all over again in your range setup, and eventually you'll get the core defeated and be ready for range 3. Heal up and keep that range gear on. P3 Warden doesn't use protection prayers, and it won't use range, mage or melee attacks either to start with. Instead, it just pounds the ground in set patterns that do typeless damage. That means no prayer helps and you've just got to move your feet. You'll notice the slam has a pattern. Slam on the left, slam on the right, slam both sides. That means you'll need to stand on the right, then the left, then the center, moving around between slams. Just keep looping this round. The first extra mechanic you'll encounter is the energy siphons. You can only kill these with melee, but they die in 1 hit and there's no attack delay between hits, so get clicking. This is a repeating mechanic with the amount of siphons that you have to hit increasing each round. If you don't destroy them, you'll take some damage and the Warden will heal, so do your best to get them all gone. You might have heard people talk about skull skipping, do not worry about that. This is where you leave the skulls to explode. This is good for farming rares, where killing Warden with more HP means more raid points, but it makes the fight way harder for learners. Once you've dealt with the siphons a few times, assuming you did as you were told and blocked off the correct Warden in P1, Zebak will show up and start launching ranged and magic attacks at you. You simply need to have the correct prayer on when it hits you. This works exactly the same as it did in the Zebak fight, only this time you'll be moving around like a madman dodging the shockwaves at the same time. Pretty much as soon as you've gotten to grips with Zebak, Barber will spawn and start dropping dung on your head. This seems like a nightmare initially, but once you've gotten into the rhythm, as long as you're dodging the shockwaves, you'll dodge the dung too. You might just need to move backwards or forwards to dodge the first one, instead of left and right. Keep this up, and if you're lucky, you'll get the boss down to 5% health and be treated to the Enrage phase. During this phase, the Warden is in full meltdown mode. It is absolute chaos. Here's how you need to deal with it. I recommend using melee, dumping specs with the liquid adrenaline if you have it. I advise getting up close and personal because the back tiles of the arena slowly get ripped away into nothing. You'll have to avoid the lightning bolts. You can identify these by the shadows on the floor. The simplest way to do this is to hit and then click on a free tile immediately. Do not panic. Hit, move, hit, move, hit, move. Just keep repeating that. You'll also need to keep an eye on your prayers whilst this is going on. Zebak is still Zebaking, and Barbar is still dropping shit on your head. Try not to get tunnel vision on any one thing. If it all starts to get a bit too much, hopefully you listened to my advice and brought that Ambrosia. It's a massive overheal. I'd advise to pop it if you notice your HP drop below 40. Keep switching prayers, avoiding the falling debris and the lightning strikes, and eventually you'll get the boss down to 0. Congratulations, you've just sent your first entry mode Tombs of Amascut, a massive achievement for any player. I suspect your loot is trash, but check it out anyways, you might get lucky. I've seen more 0 invo purples in my Discord than you'd probably expect. Now you've got your first Wardens KC, you might want to practice a few runs at 0 invocation. But let's say you're ready to up the difficulty a little bit. What invocations do I recommend for building up to your first normal mode at 150 raid level? Softcore run is an easy 15 points, it limits you to 3 deaths per raid. On a diet it's basically free, it means you can't use food, but as you're trugging brews and restores, this doesn't matter, another 15 points. Walk for it allows 40 minutes for you to finish the raid, this should be plenty of time, you get 10 points. Kephri specific invos to turn on include Lively Larvae, this gives you 5 points and just doubles the amount of little bugs shooting ranged attacks at you. You should be praying ranged anyway, so no big deal here. Blowing Mud makes the dung special twice as potent. You should be avoiding all the dung. This is a mechanic we've already mastered. 10 points here. Aerial Assault turns Kephri's Fireball into a 3x3 explosion. You just need to run a little further away from the fireball. 10 points. For Zebak, Not Just a Head enables Blood Magic. He'll Blood Barrage you, and you'll have to run away from the blood spawns that chase you around. 15 points. Arterial Spray increases the range of Zebak's Blood Magic, 10 points, and Blood Thinners means there'll be 3 blood spawns instead of 1, 15 points. Akkha invocations fucking suck, so we're not turning any of them on. Ever. You'll want to have 3 invocations on for Baba. Gotta Have Faith increases the sarcophagus energy damage. You shouldn't be letting the sarcophagi even open, but if you do, they aren't too bad to deal with, 10 points. Jungle Japes makes baboons drop bananas. Don't stand in the shit on the floor. This one shouldn't be too hard to deal with. 5 more points. The last Barber Invo is Shaking Things Up. This makes a bigger shockwave that you need to react to a bit more quickly. 10 points. We'll be applying 3 Wardens Invocations. Ancient Haste makes the Wardens charge faster during the first phase. Overclocked 1 and 2 make the Wardens attack speed a little faster in phase 3. These are 10 points each. That totals 150 points. Turn these on a few at a time and you'll be ready for your first normal mode ToA in no time. Now you've seen all of the mechanics of the vanilla entry mode bosses and you're familiar with the invocation system and how to crank up to normals and beyond. You're ready to get deep into Tombs of Amascut. This content is honestly the best training tool for getting into group raids. The gradual increase in difficulty means you're never getting overwhelmed by too many new things at once if you're sensible with the invocations that you apply. If you've made it this far, please like the video if you found it useful and subscribe if you want to see more from me. Any engagement massively boosts me in the algorithm, and I want my guides, tips and tricks to reach the people who need it most, and only you guys can help me do that. Check out the Discord if you want to find a great group of players, always keen to help each other out, and come find me on Twitch to hang out with me whilst I stream live. I hope to see you there. As always, an absolutely huge shout out to all of my Twitch subs and YouTube members. You guys help make all of this possible. Thanks for sticking around, I'll see you next time.